Welcome to episode 12, episode 13, season 2 of The Gray Zone. Excited to have you here. In today's episode, I'm talking about and thinking about the idea of the correlation between effort and focused attention and the outcome of feeling good about yourself, being enthusiastic in the work that you're doing, feeling joy, showing grit, and feeling fulfilled. I think there's a really strong correlation between those two things, and I first really learned that from climbing. For some reason, there's lots of reasons, but climbing showed me a lot of progress very quickly at the start, which generated a lot of enthusiasm and focused attention in everything around climbing, like during climbing, being super focused and present on the wall. How I started to shape my life around climbing, like being healthier, drinking less, stretching for the first time. Like all of these things sort of started to come together because of, again, the joy and enthusiasm, fulfillment I felt from climbing, which then increased my focus and my attention, and that these two things had a very strong correlation. And it's also why I enjoy trying climbs that are very difficult for me, because they force me to try very hard, to be very focused, and have a lot of focused effort and attention to succeed. And if I don't show up with that, then I won't succeed. And so I've noticed that the climbs and the moments that have been the most fulfilling and rewarding in my life are the climbs that have pushed me the hardest, that have forced me to be the most focused and put in the most effort. And then that's correlated to feeling the best. And so when I learned that in climbing, I was like, first, a little nervous that I was just going to drop out and become, I guess I was in school at the time actually, so drop out, but just become like a climbing dirtbag, because I was genuinely quite tempted to, simply because it felt better than anything else that I'd been told I should do by society, by other people in my life, like go to school. And for some reason, it also had nothing to do with anyone else. And so that was a bit confusing. But anyways, I decided that was risky, and decided instead to take what I'd learned from climbing about effort and how that correlates to feeling good and apply it to other things in my life. And so eventually I got a job in tech sales, and I applied that same mentality there. Focused effort, no distractions, like putting my phone away. And like from the time that I clocked in to the time that I clocked out, I was focused on the task at hand and really minimized distractions. And because of this focused effort that I was putting in, I also felt really good. And I progressed really well. And because most people, all of us, even like myself, so much included in this, we're so distracted these days that it's such a competitive advantage if you can be disciplined in your focus and in your attention. And so there's a whole other topic there around like how to sort of like harness that. At least what I've seen help for me, which is largely meditation. But that's not what I'm here to talk about and share today. Today is more around the correlation between these two things. And so in my own experience, both with climbing and with work, over time you kind of become accustomed to that environment. You become accustomed to the stimulus, the inputs. You get better, which means that the wins, like the progression, both in work and sales and as a climber, they start to be harder to come by because they're harder to do. So at the start of climbing, within a week, you see an insane amount of progression, within 2 months, within 3 months. But now climbing for 6 years, there could be a 6-month period or a year period or a year and a half period where I don't notice strong, consistent, tangible improvements in my ability. And there's so many factors behind that. Even though I am getting better and I am improving in some degree, it just takes longer for that to be like a really marginal difference that I notice and feels really good. And it's similar in work. We become habituated, the challenge increases, and the wins maybe are less frequent, or it's just hard. Like the environment changes and we're not succeeding as much as we want, or we disagree with somebody. Anyways, there's a million reasons to start to feel a little bit more disengaged. But when you combine that with already feeling distracted, and now you've been doing something for 6 years, and it's just less like stimulating to do, it's really easy to fall out of the focused effort and attention that is so correlated to feeling good. So I've noticed myself in my work that the times where I felt not just like bored, but I also noticed that when I'm distracted, less focused at work, still able to get things done, but like that same intention focus isn't there, the way I feel about myself, expand that over a long enough time, really gets impacted. Negative emotions start to just be more present, generally speaking, like anxiety or nervousness. And so there's such a strong correlation between, again, focusing, putting in the right effort, putting in good effort, and feeling good about myself, and transitioning out of that state of like, because you get better, your skills improve over time, and so it actually takes less effort to get the same results, right? So like, why would you put in more work? What are you incentivized to work harder for and still be diligent and focused beyond the idea of feeling better about yourself? And I think when these things happen, like I've spoken to friends who've said that they've noticed that in themselves, that after a while that like that effort, that focus goes away, and then their first instinct, and I think this is totally understandable and very common, is to change the environment, to leave, to change the company, get a new job, do something new, get in a new relationship, whatever the case might be. Maybe I quit climbing and I start another sport. And I think that solves the problem in the short term, but in the long run, you're gonna have the same problem again. And so this is where sort of setting that to the side of saying, okay, yeah, sure, circumstances, they're easy enough to blame for why I'm not less engaged, but I think the first sort of action to take would be to actually start to be more disciplined again, more focused, put in more effort, so that at least you're taking ownership for yourself and for your actions. And I think that's gonna have a huge correlation to, and I've noticed it for myself throughout climbing and my career, that when I do that and I become more disciplined again, I genuinely start to feel better about myself and I start to feel better throughout the workday. The second piece to the second thing to consider is, what do you want out of the activity you're engaging in? Like, why are you engaging in this activity in the first place? And is that what you're getting? And if you're not, then maybe it is a good idea for a change. But if you can, then simply putting in the effort again can really set you on a better path. And just something that I've noticed in myself. Like, when I don't feel good about myself, it's often because I'm not showing up in the way that I know I can. And when I realize that and I know what I want, which is I want to feel good about myself, and that's the main thing, really. Like, everything else is kind of an opportunity for me to either show up in a way that I can be proud of or a way that I'm not. And really, I think that's the only thing I can control. Everything else is pretty much out of my control. And so having that intention for me as the primary intention, it makes life a lot more simple. When there's new opportunities that present themselves, of course, I can consider them, but my first instinct isn't always to walk away from something because I want to look at first, am I showing up in the way that I want to here? Because that's probably, if not, that's probably what's causing me to want to leave this environment. It's challenging, it's uncomfortable for me to try harder again here. So that's the theme of the episode. That is the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to reach out if you got any thoughts. Dislike it, hate it, love it. Enjoy your day.